We're only 3 minutes late today. Hell yeah.
It's a new record.
It's not a new
Start
record.
on time.
It's not a new record. Okay, go.
Hello and welcome to the weekly wrap with the USA Liberalists. Tonight we are your hosts, Cody and Jordan here.
Hello.
We need to get a better intro.
We do need a better intro. Fucking
with some badass music.
Yeah,
and
we need like
graphics
some screaming
shit.
guitar. Well, next time we need to look into like. Okay, here's what we'll do. I'm gonna once we're done today, because I'm working a short shift today, so I shouldn't be totally exhausted tomorrow for once. Because for some reason I always make Fridays like my hump day, in every sense. Wait, hold on. Okay, not in every sense. Anyway, I wish in every sense. I'll look for some screaming guitar in like the YouTube library. It's gonna be great.
Nice.
Get some royalty-free screaming guitar.
Just get like the Battle Song of the Republic or something, you know?
Oh my
something
god.
badass.
We're not
something patriotic.
Like we're not like I've seen the music that you listen to on this channel.
Yeah, get something to do with pirates. Come on.
We're not just playing a fucking pirate song, Cody.
We're internet pirates. Come
my
on.
god. Okay, you can be a butt pirate all you want, but we're gonna fucking.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I cross the line? I'm sorry, Cody.
Offended.
Are you offended?
Yeah, you're offending all our
shit.
LGBTQ viewers.
Fuck.
Come on, man.
I'm canceled. I'm canceled.
You've been canceled.
Fuck. Not again. I disavow myself.
So
it's okay.
Tonight we're going to be talking about anti-Semitism and how bad it is, because apparently people don't know that.
Anti-Semitism is bad, okay?
Yeah, exactly. We're going to talk about the great battle between the Babylon Bee and Snopes. And then we're also going to go over a little bit of the Portland narrative, is what I'm calling it. But we're going to talk about sort of my experience at the rally and I guess my perspective. And I want to get your perspective on what happened in Portland as somebody who wasn't there and doesn't know everything. So see how you feel about it, to get a sense of what, as a stand-in for what people who don't live here know, and then I can give you what I know and about what's continuing to go on.
Well, I mean, I can actually go ahead and preempt that. People that aren't either tuned into what's happening in Portland or don't live in Portland don't know anything about what's happening in Portland.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured.
Like they legit, like there was this one girl on my Facebook post that because I started posting up a whole bunch of the stuff coming out of Portland, because I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. And she's like, what's Antifa? And I'm like, but oh my god, come on, Danny.
Yes, Antifa's bad. Okay.
Yeah, Antifa's bad. Okay, Antifa's bad.
I actually wrote up an article about it for my blog, but I haven't posted it yet. But
should. But also, I do want to talk about the article that you brought up a minute ago, talking about the ex-Overstock CEO. Patrick Byrne or whatever, however, says he got fishy orders from Peter Strzok, former acting AG, unsure of claims, which is interesting.
Yeah,
that's a weirdly waffly title from Fox.
It's an interesting story, but I always try to be like extra skeptical of stories that I want to be true. You know, like if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Sure. Well, that's why we're just gonna, because you're right. We don't have information here. We don't know what's happening. This is just now coming out. So, yeah.
What do you want to talk about this first? Do you want to talk about it now?
Sure.
Did you watch did you watch the interview?
I did not get a chance to watch the interview because I took a shower like right before we started.
Okay. So I watched the interview. It's like,
tell us about it.
20 minutes long.
The audience.
And basically he doesn't really say anything specific. He just kind of says, well, he says that he calls them the Men in Black, which is weird. But
I hate when Will Smith shows up to my house and forces me to do shit.
Right. Well,
That
they
was
didn't
English.
force him to do anything, but he,
Right.
he says it's not the FBI. He wants to be clear. It's not the FBI.
Mhm.
It's not like the average FBI agent. These are the people at the top level of the FBI.
Oh
And
shit,
so,
Comey did it.
well, yeah, he does mention Comey and Clapper and Peter Strzok, and he also mentioned that they were trying to essentially, what's her name? There was a,
I'm noticing by its absence the. Oh, I'm totally blanking on his name. The guy that did the Russia investigation.
oh yeah, he didn't talk about him. He didn't talk about Mueller at
I was about
all.
to say, why are we both blanking on Mueller's name? Okay, there we
I
go.
know I totally blanked. um, but he said that before, like in 2015, before we even had the nominees,
Sure.
that they were, I don't remember her name. Maybe it's in the story. This Russian, she was found out to be like a Russian agent, sort of.
Okay.
Um, if you can find her name in the story, let me know. But
I'm looking right now.
anyway, she's essentially trying to associate herself with the campaigns of 4 different groups.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Hillary Clinton, because everybody knew Hillary Clinton was going to be the nominee for the Democrats. And then it was Trump, Cruz, and Rubio. So she's trying to like hobnob with all these people.
Okay.
And essentially, what they were going to do is use her connection to these people to tie them to Russian collusion, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so they asked him to like carry on a relationship with her,
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Oh, I found it.
Maria Butina.
Apparently, we both found it. All right.
Yeah.
Fine.
And so he doesn't give any specifics, but they told him that like he's been approached by these people twice before. Once to help with the investigation of a murder of one of his friends,
Mm-hmm.
to find the murderer. Another time to catch some people doing some stuff on Wall Street. He said he was basically like a one-man Occupy Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then again this time, and it was to pursue and maintain a romantic relationship with Maria Butina.
Mm-hmm.
And so like he tells about how she came to him and that she's like this essentially like a Milton Friedman kind of liberal,
Okay.
like a classical liberal, and how she wants to bring the liberal ideas into Russia, and how she wants him, because he describes himself as like a small L libertarian, small R Republican.
Okay.
And so she was talking to him and he was interested, and then he noticed that something was going on, and so he went and told the FBI about it. But he didn't give anything specific. He just said that something seemed odd to him, and so he told the FBI, and then they said just let her do whatever, like
Okay.
let her go. And then he
I wanted to follow her.
yeah, and then they told him to like they broke up.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, they weren't like dating, they were just having an affair, I guess. I don't know what was going on.
Sounds more like a quid pro quo relationship than anything, but yeah.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like he
I
said he
fuck
didn't
you,
want
you
to
give me
brag, but
information. Yeah.
it sounded like he had her as a booty call.
Yeah. Yeah.
She could come to him whenever she wanted to get laid or go on a fancy date or whatever. So
Sure.
he did that for a while, and they broke off their relationship, and then these men in black, he says, came to him and told him that he needed to rekindle that relationship with her. And so
Well,
He
I'm
basically
noticing
said he had sex for her for our country.
what a hero. What a
Right.
legend. All right.
Took one from the team.
Seriously. Oh no. Oh no, please don't make me. Um but yeah, it sounds like I'm reading through this and I'm actually like, okay, at first I was like, all right, maybe it isn't, but I'm reading through and I'm like, there's actually a lot of verifiable or disprovable information in here about names and dates and just a lot of stuff, which leans me more towards this guy might be legit.
Yeah, if what he's saying checks out, because this came out, I heard about this today, and I
Hmm.
think it came out today. I don't know what the date is on the article or anything,
Yeah.
or when he did the interview. But he said that he didn't really realize. He didn't ask like, well, why do you want me to do all this? He was just like, I'm doing this. I'm serving my country. I want to help keep things going. And they're like, you need to do this for the national interest and for the good of the country. And so he did it. And then later on, when they were doing the Mueller probe and everything, and all the stuff came out, like they had Peter Strzok called to testify, and the text messages and everything, he picked up on he put some of the things from his experience together with what they said,
Hmm.
and he kind of pieced together that he was getting orders, that Strzok was the one who was directing the people who would come to him and then say, you need to do this. And so his orders were coming from him. And he said that it felt like that they were manufacturing a crisis in a can
Okay.
by letting Maria Butina kind of get in with all these groups.
Hmm.
Because she was the person, she's in jail for espionage, I guess, essentially, because she's like a member of
Spy.
the the Russian government or something.
Sure.
And she's the person who had like top level connections in the NRA. Do you remember that story?
I do not.
Okay, so that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
But we won't go into it. But
Give me
basically,
like a quick and nerdy.
She was
Like Maria
she had
gave to this guy.
connections. Well, she had connections to like top members in the NRA, which has connections to top members of the Republican Party.
Okay.
And so it was like, well, see, like she was in there. She's a Russian agent, and therefore Russia's meddling with our elections. And so whoever won the presidency is illegitimate or whatever. Like they had that in their back pocket,
Right.
And so he said he didn't feel comfortable coming forward until AG Barr got put into office, and he feels like he's honest enough, or he's faithful enough to justice to follow through on these claims instead of like hiding them. He doesn't mention specifically who it is, which kind of gives me the like Alex Jones sort of feel, where there's like, well, in the next couple months you'll see this things will come out and it'll be big,
Sure.
It kind of gives me that sort of
That's fair.
feel to it. But like you said, there is things in here that can be verified.
Yeah, like there's a lot of very easily falsifiable information that I'm looking at in here with a with an in-depth investigation. So I think I'm not saying this guy is legit, but I am saying if Barr follows through, we'll know in short order.
Right, and he said he's told everybody, and that he doesn't want to say too much to jeopardize like a ongoing investigation. And basically they wanted to have Maria Butina get in with all these groups so they could store up this crisis so that they could essentially control whoever became president. Because she got in with the Clinton campaign, and then she got in with these 3 Republicans. She was trying to get in with them. And during the campaign, before Trump became the nominee, it was looking like the top three were Rubio, Trump, and Cruz were the top three that could potentially be the candidates.
By the way, since we're talking about candidates, I just want to throw this in here right now. It looks like the Democrats aren't letting Tulsi through on the next debate, and that's bullshit. Tulsi is bae, and she deserves to be in the debate. Okay, sorry, go back.
Conspiracy.
Fucking Tulsi for fucking 2020. Tulsi Yang.
Independent party. Start third party right now.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, that was really that. That was it. He kept saying that it's not the FBI. These aren't these FBI agents. And when they came to me to tell me what Peter Strzok had ordered them to do, they were saying things like, well, you don't have to do this. Like, he said it to him, it felt like they knew these orders were fishy, but they were following orders.
Sure.
And they were telling him that you can do, like, these are the orders we were given to ask you to do this, but you don't have to do this if you don't feel like you should.
Sure.
And he did. And this guy was the CEO of Overstock.com.
Okay.
And he quit. You know, he resigned when this first came out.
Let's have a look. Overstock.
It's kind of like an Amazon kind of like internet site internet retailer.
Looks like they have a bit more of a specialization when it comes to furniture, from what I'm seeing so far. Yeah,
they typically buy the like stuff that people can't sell, like the overstock.
Okay.
So if a store purchases too much, then they buy it at a banging discount if they just buy it all, and stores just want to dump it and get something for it. And so they buy it cheap and then sell it to you.
That's actually something to keep in mind. All right, Overstock.com, sponsor us.
Well, he also talked about like a blockchain company that he was overseeing too.
What's that one?
But I don't know. He didn't go too much into it. It was just he said the name in the interview. So if you guys want to know, go check it out. I think I can put the link in the description to the interview.
Yeah, I can also, for the couple of guys watching, I can at least throw that in the chat.
I mean, go watch it, when we're done.
Right.
After our show, of course.
Right. But, that's never mind. Don't do that at all. Whatever, it's going in the description. That's fine.
Oh, you got it, okay.
Yeah, it was like trying to give me some weird link, and I don't feel like... Because I know if I open it, it's immediately going to start playing, and I'm going to like blow out the eardrums on everybody. So... Actually, you know what? Here. Fix that real quick. Boom. Open you up.
So yeah, there wasn't really much more in the story about it. So
there we go.
Yeah, it's in the chat.
I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, and it's a story that was kind of breaking today, and so we wanted to bring it to you guys, even though we don't know too much more about it. I guess hopefully we'll see some more about this in the future. He kind of made it sound like it went up to like, I don't know if he said like President Obama. He kept saying like X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z,
He may not have a full understanding of the entire structure of what was going on. Maybe that's why. Yeah,
he mentioned
if it's true. Again,
he mentioned Strzok. He mentioned Comey. He mentioned Whitaker and a couple other people, but he didn't say like Eric Holder or Barack Obama or any of these people. Like, he didn't say it went all the way up to there, but he sort of implied that. which also kind of makes me a little skeptical because, I mean, that would be huge. That'd be a huge thing if that were true.
Right.
And so it's like, it's one of those things where it's like the story is so good
and that we have to be suspicious.
Yeah, you need to be suspicious. It's just like with the Kavanaugh thing for the Democrats, they were they were so eager to believe that it was true, and they just freaked out and were like, "It's true! Like it's true! It's true! We've got him! Like you can't get another Supreme Court judge! Ha ha ha!" And it's like, you need to appoint Garland. It's like, no, like hold on.
But you know what?
You desperately want this to be true. It has no bearing on whether it is or is not true.
I think it is worth noting that, speaking of being overly suspicious, are facts satire, or is satire facts?
Yes.
The Wall Street Journal asked that question. A fact checker declares war on satire. When we make fun of liberals, Snopes pretends to take us seriously and labels our jokes false. Fucking Snopes has become such a joke in the past 5 years. Like, holy shit, guys. They used to be decent.
Yeah, they were pretty good, but now they're lame.
Oh god, I can't fully open the Wall Street Journal. I didn't. They want me to subscribe, motherfuckers. How dare you ask for money for what you do? Hold on.
That's how they get you, man.
I got this. I'm sorry, Wall Street Journal. I'm poor.
Yeah, I don't have the money to support the failing Wall Street Journal.
No, the Wall Street Journal's fine.
Yeah, they're actually not too bad.
Yeah, they're not too bad. I'm gonna open this up and go back to your notes so that I can. How about you, New York Times? How do you feel? Yeah, there we go. I'm an absolute horse. Hold on. While I do that, why don't you just tell us about it a little bit?
Okay. So basically, the hilarious feud between the Babylon Bee and Snopes started out essentially with the Babylon Bee being funny as shit, and then Snopes fact-checking them on their satirical articles, saying that they weren't true. Shocker.
Yeah, who would have guessed? The site, the entire point of the site is to say completely ridiculous shit that, like, sort of is analogous with what's happening, kind of, and it's not true. Right. No, say it ain't 100%.
So. Snopes. So the Babylon Bee just made fun of them because that's what the Babylon Bee does, and then Snopes essentially doubled down and basically said that, well, this satire, the Babylon Bee is twisting their jokes to deceive their readers. And so it's like, well, yeah, we know you're joking and you're kidding and people know that, but you're really trying to just deceive people.
Trying to lie.
So this is more mind reading.
Yeah.
Apparently the people over at Snopes can read minds now. I mean, to me, it seems like the goal of the Babylon Bee is just to be funny as shit.
Like, they're lampooning the far left, and they want to be funny.
Well, so, and they lampoon Christian organizations. I see a ton of like youth leader does this funny thing, or like kid dies of starvation after waiting for parents to get done talking after church. And then they lampoon Trump too. So they kind of lampoon everybody, but they do have a more of like I'd say like conservative Christian sort of bent.
Sure.
But they don't have a problem making fun of everybody, and I appreciate that. Yeah. I actually shared one of their things and said that I said that laughter is the best medicine for our republic right now. So keep up the good work.
Speaking of laughter, did you see that story that came out with the Democrat that fucking actually came out and legit and just straight up said, "Fucking." But if we, and I know this is completely out of left field, that has nothing to do with this, but there, like, I can't. I wanted to get your opinion on this just real quick. There was a Democrat that legit just came out and said the quiet part where he's like, "But if we get rid of all the illegal immigrants, who's gonna mow my lawn?
Oh man, you don't
Who's
say that.
who's gonna mow my? Who's gonna work in the factories?"
Right? Yeah, this is the racism of the left. Like I don't think this guy like
out loud.
I don't think he hates Hispanics.
No, he's just stupid.
But for one thing, like he automatically believes illegal immigrant equals Hispanic. So that's a problem. Problem number one. Problem number two is that only Hispanics can do those jobs.
Like, only Hispanics are willing to do those jobs, as evidenced by as soon as we get rid of a whole bunch of illegal immigrants over the chicken factory down in Mississippi, there's a whole bunch of American workers lining up. That's a real fucking weird version of Americans won't do this jobs. Like, really? Yeah, okay.
Well, and the thing is too that if he believes like what he said, which he said it, so I'm going to take him at face value that he believes that what he's saying, then he never wants these people to be legal citizens. He thinks that they should remain in a perpetual state of illegality so that they can essentially work as slave laborers.
They can mow his lawn.
To mow his fucking lawn, right? Like, that's another problem. That's personally why I want to see. I'm fine with people coming here.
Yeah.
I don't care where you're from or what religion you are or what color your skin is or if you like men or women or whatever. Just come into the country legally. Yeah. Because if you're here legally, then you can take advantage of the civil protections that we have for individuals. If you're here illegally, like, I believe you still have those rights as a human being, but it's a lot harder to extend those civil liberties, those legal civil liberties to you as somebody who's illegally in this country.
Well, I didn't want to get into a whole discussion about that. I didn't know if you were aware of that. I thought it was fucking hilarious.
I think I saw it right before we got on here, and I was like, oh man, all the good stories came out today.
Right? Fucking hell. All right, back to Snopes versus Babylon Bee. I forgot the name for a second.
Snopes versus those funny guys.
Yeah, seriously. I wonder if a site named the Babylon Bee should be taken seriously. Snopes says yes. They're fighting over how Snopes characterizes stories published by The Bee, which says Snopes has veered from its fact-checking mission by suggesting that the satirical site may be twisting its jokes to deceive viewers or readers. Let's read how. The reason we have to take it seriously is because social networks, which we depend on for our traffic, have relied upon fact-checking sources in the past to determine what's fake news and what isn't. Seth Dillon, The Bee's chief executive, in an interview on Thursday with Shannon Bream of Fox News, in cases where they're calling us fake news and lumping us in with them, rather than saying this is satire, that could actually damage us. It could put our business in jeopardy, which is fair.
Right, yeah, they're saying, well, because Facebook and other social media companies rely on Snopes and other, you can't see, guys, air quotes here, fact checkers to determine who is and isn't fake news. And then they'll essentially like shadow ban or like downgrade those fake news sites on your Twitter feed and your Facebook feed and mess with the algorithm.
Yeah, it's really weird with these fact checkers because they're entirely uncharitable for people like the Babylon Bee and like the fact that it's fucking satire. And then when it comes to fact checking their own side, it's like, wait, did something happen? I didn't hear about it. Did you hear about it? No, I didn't hear about it, Bob. Did you hear about it, Seth? No, I didn't hear about it. How about you, Shannon? I didn't hear about it. Let's not write about it.
Right. So it's these fact checkers. I have a hard time like explaining this to people because I understand their feeling that like the Babylon Bee or like the Democrats and the media are all essentially in cahoots with each other. So it does kind of feel like there's some master plan here directed by George Soros and conspiracy theory go on. I think it can be explained a lot easier.
Yeah,
in that
it doesn't need to be that. Yeah.
These people just all share a worldview and live in these bubbles, and so that's how reality looks to them. And so they believe that's true, and then like a million other people are like, no, that's not exactly right, and they're like, well, these people are just trolls. They just dismiss it, as opposed to being like, oh, maybe I was wrong.
Maybe the Babylon Bee, the satire website, isn't lying to everyone, they're just making jokes.
Well, jokes are illegal. Didn't you know that?
Fucking jokes. Dude, even Piers Morgan has finally come out and just been like, dude, this is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, did you watch or listen to his interview with Ben Shapiro on his Sunday special?
Didn't watch all of it. I did watch the parts that Piers Morgan himself were putting out. So, yeah.
I listened to the whole thing. It was good, man. Like, he's one of those guys who it was hilarious when, Ben Shapiro was on his show and kind of made a fool out of him. I didn't realize so many people got angry at him though, like and tried to get him deported. I didn't realize that was like a real thing.
Tried to get who deported?
Piers Morgan.
Is he deportable?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so.
Like, where did they try and get him deported to?
Well, he's not an American. He's
Englishman. You mean when he came here? But he...
Yeah.
He's got a passport.
No, yeah,
guys.
when he was...
You can't
when
fucking...
He was, when he was in CNN, when he worked for CNN.
Okay, I'm like, you can't just...
There was a petition. You know when Obama had set up the White House petitions where if they got so many signatures, then the White House had to actually address the petition?
Sure.
So they got enough signatures, so Obama had to address that they wanted him deported or, kicked out of the country. And Obama basically said, no, we're not doing this. This is stupid. Which you won't hear me say this often, but I actually agree with Obama on that point.
Yeah.
A funny part in this story here with Babylon Bee, though, is that they talked about this one article, which I did see, is that Georgia lawmaker claims Chick-fil-A employee told her to go back to her country. Later clarifies he actually said, my pleasure, which was a spoof off of that lady who said the guy told her that in the grocery store. It turned out he was Cuban.
Yeah, it turns out he was more of a foreigner than she fucking was.
And she actually said it to him.
Yeah, or maybe. Like, did we ever get confirmation on that?
No, but
I mean, realistically, it makes more sense if she said
it. Was lying.
I mean, yeah, it makes more sense if she would say it, but yeah.
There were other people who said that she had said it to him.
That's fair.
And then I think she admitted it. She admitted that she had said it, but that she had only said it because he said it to her first.
I
think she admitted that. She's like, I may have said that, or she kind of like hinted at it. She did the politician wiggle around.
She's so full of shit.
Words.
But anyway,
totally full of shit.
Back to the Babel. Oh, sorry.
Well, they said that this parody. Okay, here's what the article says. It was a parody of a real controversy involving a claim of racism, a counterclaim, and a fair amount of outrage. That was one of the articles that Snopes labeled as false because it had to deal with that like real life thing, and that there was all this controversy and outrage because people were actually believing this to be true.
Can we just can the Snopes just please put a big red X on Babylon Bee that just says false? Because every single article they publish is false by definition.
Well, they changed they changed a bunch of their stuff in their Snopes articles about it, and they changed their rating from false to labeled satire, whatever the fuck that means.
Okay, that's called delete the article if you guys are trying to judge satire.
Well, people need to
Your
know that this
fact
is
checkers.
satire.
Your fact checkers. I need to know if it's true or not. If it's satire, there's no like I don't care if it's true or not. It's satire. Jesus
Right?
Christ.
It's not supposed to be true.
It's literally supposed to be false. Yeah. It's not satire if it's not false.
Yeah, so the Babylon Bee, I forget who, I think it was Tim Pool. I was listening to Tim Pool, and I don't know if he was talking about a different video, but it kind of, the whole like labeled satire thing made me think of this randomly. So I'm going to just throw this tangent out there that Tim Pool was talking about how they changed language in California. So a convict is no longer a convict, but they're a justice involved person. And he talked about this George Carlin bit where George Carlin goes through, like, you know, back in his day, it was people who went to war and they were suffering from the horrors of war. When they came back, it was shell shock.
Mm-hmm.
They were shell shocked. Okay, like that makes sense. And then it just kept like getting longer and longer until you have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, I've seen that Carlin bit. It's a really good bit.
Yeah, it's a great bit, and it is exactly. It was going on then, and it's going on now, and it's continuing to go on. That they're just making these words longer, so that they essentially could really mean anything you want them to mean.
Well, also, I think it's more about the speaker than it is about actually making the person involved feel better. Because the person involved, like, I feel like most of them, when you say shell shock or post traumatic stress disorder, the person that understands what that means, that's actually been through it, doesn't really necessarily care what you call it for the most part, as long as you're not pointing and laughing at them for it, right?
Right.
It's more
they
for
care
the person
more about
saying it,
how you act.
right? It's more about the person saying it because the person saying it might feel bad for saying, "Oh, you've been shell shocked." But if I say post traumatic stress disorder, no, that's a scientific description, so they don't have to feel anything when they say it because they don't want to have to feel bad. It's not about the person; it's about them. That's what euphemisms are, in my opinion. It's about the person doesn't want to feel bad when they say a word, so they come up with a new word, and then it inherits the old assumptions because it's the same fucking word. You've just made different noises for it, and now they have to change it.
Well, and they like post-traumatic stress disorder. Also, like, to me, it's more pernicious than just trying to make the person saying shell shocked versus PTSD feel better. It's saying that like post-traumatic stress disorder, like if you have a disorder, it makes it sound like, well, it's not your fault. And I don't want to imply that people with shell shock, it's their fault.
Okay.
But if you like take away, I guess, fault or
agency, maybe?
Yeah, there you go. That's a better word. Agency.
Okay.
You take away somebody's agency from it, then they're just a victim to it. You know, it kind of it's like, well, it's not you don't have any agency here because you didn't decide to go to war and you didn't decide to have your whole platoon blown up by an IED and have all these horrible nightmares and now you're mentally scarred. You didn't decide all this stuff, and it's not your. I guess the reason I used fault because I've been thinking about how like personal responsibility plays into things.
Sure.
And there's Jordan Peterson brought up this line in this play where there's a woman talking to her psychiatrist and telling him all these problems that she has, and she says, "I hope that this is all my fault." And the psychiatrist like kind of is taken aback and is like, "Well, why do you say that? That seems kind of weird." And she says, "Well, if they're my fault, then I can at least do something about it."
Right.
And so like
that's
it's
fair. I get it.
Post. I mean, that's just my interpretation of it. I'm not saying that's true or anything like that. It's just how I perceive the whole, like, you're not a criminal, you're now a justice involved person.
Oh yeah, that's
It
gonna.
doesn't mean anything.
Well, these words tend to reacquire the old definition anyway, even if you're trying to make it sound better. Now it's like people are concerned because I hear Tim when he said, because I watched the video too, where he basically said that it's going to boil it down so you can't even tell the difference between someone that's like murdered someone and jaywalked. And like, but instead
Right.
of everyone assuming, oh well, you're a jaywalker, no, it's going to be everyone assuming you're a murderer when you say justice involved person, right? Because if you lump both of them together, they're going to boil it down to the riskier position, and it's going to force people to have to explain, no, I'm not, I didn't actually do anything. I just, you know, it was a dumb decision and I shouldn't have done it, and I got the slap on the wrist and I'm fine. Yeah, okay, I'm a justice involved person.
Well, it's,
Or
to
we
me,
could
it's
just say felon.
well, this is like the danger of too much inclusivity.
Yeah.
So if I'm just thinking of this now, so I'm trying to formulate my thoughts. If everyone's included, then nobody's included, I guess, is kind of how I'm trying to think of it. Where, like, it's like if everyone's a racist, then is anybody really a racist? You know, if we're all racist, isn't that just how everybody is then?
Yeah.
It's
Maybe
kind
we
of,
should
that's kind
reserve
of
the word racist for special
right.
racists.
We need to have like a I mean, I'm sure definitions to some of these people are fascist, and so we just should do away with all definitions to anything, because
Sure.
anything that organizes any sort of order is fascism.
Yeah, seriously, it's fucking crazy.
So I think that's sort of to me, that's the level I'm thinking about all this, like, why I am so, people just, when I tell people that this sort of thing upsets me when they change the language like this, they're just like, whatever, like, language changes, just get over it. And I'm like, no, like, words matter, man. Like, the definitions of these words matter. And if they're so broad that they can mean anything, then we're all going to form our own definitions within our own camps. And then we can't talk to each other anymore. And then if we can't talk to each other anymore, if we can't settle our disputes through speech, then we have to kill each other.
Well, that's part of what happened. Like you were saying earlier, that's part of what happened to the word racism, where they tried to overbroaden the definition, and one side is like, yeah, this makes perfect sense to them, I guess, and then everybody else was like, well, what are you talking about? So now you've got two sides that can't talk about racism because one side doesn't even have a word for someone that's exceptionally racist other than bigot, which doesn't really even fit there, but whatever. We'll just pretend that we'll pretend the definition means what they think it means. I understand what they mean when they say it, so I guess close enough. But they've substituted the old word for racism that everyone else uses and just say bigot now. Except it doesn't just mean racism; it could mean sexism, racism,
transphobia,
is a form of
bigotry.
Yeah, like it's supposed to. Well,
bigotry is the umbrella term, you know.
Yeah. Well, no, bigotry is supposed to be against ideas. Like if you've got like a problem with Christians or like Muslims or something like that, that's a bigot. That's what that's supposed to be. If you've got a problem with black people aren't an idea. Like they're a race.
Yeah, they're not an idea.
That's racism. But there's a specific word for that. It's a form of prejudice, which bigotry is one of many.
Yeah. I think this is going to make me sound terrible. Maybe I shouldn't say it, but I do think that there are certain groups who do believe that there is an idea of blackness, I guess.
Okay.
These are like,
I mean, that seems fairly obvious. That's what wokeness is, right?
Well, yeah, that's intersectionality and like, well, and then that's where I see the relation with white supremacists, is because they have an idea of whiteness. And to you and me, white and black, there's no idea associated with your skin color. There's something like greater than your skin color, and it's like like a national identity or
Maybe that's why they call people bigots,
cultural
because they don't see the
cultural
difference.
yeah, they don't see the difference between, because like
Identity
there
and reality.
yeah, there is an American identity. I know when I was growing up, I felt that I didn't have, I don't know. I don't know where I got this idea from. Like there was no, I mean, intersectionality, I guess, kind of existed when I was a kid,
Sure.
but I don't know how much it took off or anything like that. But I had this feeling that, well, I don't have any, so like, I was upset because I didn't have a specific kind of culture. I was like, well, I'm white. Like, I don't have a culture. Like, there's black culture and Hispanic. Like, you hear, oh, there's this part of black culture, or Latino culture or Mexican culture, and I'm like, well, what's my culture? Like, why don't I have a Why
White
don't I
people
have
just
a culture?
we just haven't really worried about it. It seems like
Well,
for like the last 60 years, white people just haven't really worried about, because it's not like, because not so long ago, I'd say like maybe the 70s, back when you know like there used to be specific cultural sects like the Irish and the Italians and the Germans and the like all of these different groups
right.
had different cultural aspects that have just sort of blended together into, we're American white people. Like if you
Well,
say
yeah,
white people, it doesn't really mean anything. You could be talking about a broad range of ethnicities. Same thing for black people, really. But
well,
black people
yeah,
seem to have
like,
internalized the American black like culture and said this is our culture,
right.
whereas white people have sort of cracked a little bit in that respect, where we're just like we don't really know what it means to be white in America.
Well, yeah, there is an American culture, but
Yeah.
like we were saying, if you go to Europe, there is a French culture and an English culture, and there's similarities between those two because they're all kind of Western culture, but there are differences. And there's a German culture and there's a Scandinavian culture,
All inferior to Texan culture.
Right, right, yeah, of course. But there is an American culture, and I think like white people, we don't see the American culture as being specifically white.
Right.
It's the American culture.
And if we did, that would
There
make us
are
racist.
right that those are the white nationalists.
Right.
American culture does have people like um what's his name? The guy who wrote the slave narratives was friends with Lincoln. I can't remember his name, but they do have cultural icons who are of different, skin colors and ethnicities. Martin Luther King Jr., I would say, is an American icon.
Mm-hmm.
He's part of the American culture, and he's black.
Yeah.
Like, there's lots of other, individuals from all over the world that aren't just white. White people don't just make up American culture. American culture is sort of, I believe, kind of what the founding fathers were trying to do, is trying to set something up that was beyond like these skin color, like surface level
Racial
distinctions
cultures.
between people. Yeah.
They wanted a national culture.
Right. Exactly.
Like most countries have, honestly, but it seems like it's sort of devolved into state cultures. Because, like, Texas has a pretty identifiable culture, for the most part. Same thing for most of the southern states. Like, when I go to different southern states, I've got a pretty clear idea. Actually, most of the red states, I would say there's dotted distinct cultures. And then when you go to places like California, there's a culture, but no one seems to understand it like that.
Right. There's a Californian culture. There's a West Coast culture, I think.
And East Coast. Like, there's both of them. Where, like, New York has its own culture, Pennsylvania has its own, like, they all do. But for, like, I think there's something in the human mind that wants a racial culture. That wants to be able to say, this is the culture of my people. They want to draw a box around it and say, these are my people, this is my culture.
Well, I think you're describing tribalism, and I don't think it necessarily has to depend on skin color. I mean, there
it
is
usually ends
that,
up going that way.
Right.
I'd say
it does go that way a lot. But I mean, the people of
I think
Europe,
it's unfortunate, but yeah, it does go that way, in my opinion.
the people of Europe they all shared the same, more or less the same skin color, and then they didn't see a distinct. They saw themselves as different cultures,
Hmm.
and they saw the other cultures as, I guess, inferior or different or whatever. I don't know where I was going with that.
I can understand the
But
sentiment, seeing as Texas does have superior culture.
Well, and like even Africa, like
I'm joking in case anyone's curious.
there are countries that have distinctly different cultures. There's tribes that are, I mean, two different tribes. They all have the same skin color. They probably, even if you go back far enough, they have the same ancestors.
Yeah.
But they don't see each other as.
Right?
Well, yeah. They're not the same.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I actually I saw an article recently that came out of, I don't remember. I want to say it was an Ethiopian article. That was not written in freaking Pidgin, BBC. Jesus Christ. Have you ever seen Pidgin?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Those damn gray birds flying around the city.
If anyone's never seen Pidgin English, please go look it up. It's fucking hilarious. Anyway, and it's very condescending. Part of why it's hilarious that they actually do it. Yeah, I was saying there was a article coming out of Ethiopia that I found very interesting because apparently it seems like at least this author viewed the way that black people in America treat African culture, it to them looks like a cultural appropriation. Because it's like, you don't live here. You don't understand the culture. Like, your
ancestors left what?
Yeah, like you're putting on headdresses. You're putting on like headdresses and colorful frocks and being like, I'm so African. It's like, no, you're cosplaying.
Well, yeah, like Africa's not one big culture.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's exactly how it looked to this guy or woman. I don't remember what the name. I don't remember the author. I apologize. But yeah, to them it just looked like the black people here were cosplaying. I think part of the same problem that you were sort of describing when you were growing up, because they're looking around and being like, "What is my culture?" So they just sort of latch on to some random African culture and claim it. Just be like, "This is my culture," even if it has nothing to do with them. Even if it's not even actually their heritage. They might actually be from like Tanzania, and they're like, this Ethiopian relic is part of my culture. Is it? It's no more your culture than freaking baguettes are part of my culture.
Fucking baguettes, man.
Don't get me wrong, I love some baguettes. I love baguettes, but I'm not French at all. I am zero French.
Have you taken one of those DNA tests? You don't know.
I'm like Austrian. I'm almost exclusively Austrian.
Oh, yeah, I have
with
no
a little
idea.
bit of Native American mixed in, and some Irish.
Northern European, essentially.
Yeah, a redhead, a blonde, and a Native American had like a threesome or something, and that's how I happened.
Nice. Because that works.
Yeah, that's how that works, right?
Don't
I'm pretty
doubt
sure.
It. Don't doubt. We know.
It is known. It is known.
But yeah, like what you were saying, I think part of the genius of the founding fathers, if they meant this or not, or if this is something that developed in America later, is that they understood that the bigger the country gets, the more these cultures are going to develop. So like you said, there's the Texan culture and the West Coast culture and the city culture versus country culture. And instead of having these cultures essentially go to war with each other, they try to build a system that balance these cultures out, or like they try to give more authority to the local and individual level so that the individual person is sovereign, meaning that they can I guess, pursue their own culture,
Oh, here it is.
cultural ideals.
Yeah, I was actually looking for this because I guess someone made a map that sort of described the various different distinct cultures in America, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the stream, and you should be able to see it here in just a second. But yeah, it's like we have the left coast, which is the West Coast, like California and that. There's like the far west that and this is like the modern American nations is what this is describing. So this is actually including Canada and some of Mexico. There is the Midlands, which I think is where you would fall into. There is the yeah, or maybe you're in the far west.
I am in Oregon.
You're in Oregon. Is that the one that has a face?
I'm the left coast.
You're the left coast?
It's you see where California is?
Yeah, am I an idiot? I could have sworn. Oh, that's Montana. I'm so stupid.
North of California is
I'm so
Oregon.
Stupid. Yeah, okay.
And
No.
I'm in that blue section.
All right.
There.
Yep, I'm an idiot. That's fine.
We call it hell.
Yeah, there's like
other than the weather and all the natural beauty around here. Sucks.
There's like there's Yankeedom that like that encompasses like Michigan and New York and Maine and all that stuff. You got Greater Appalachia, which apparently encompasses a lot of Texas, which I'm surprised by. And then there's like the Deep South. And also New France and Tidewater. I'm not sure what the fuck Tidewater is. That's like it's like fucking West Virginia in there and part of I think DC is in there. That's weird. I don't know what Tidewater means. Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Also First Nation up far north.
Blue
and El Norte is part of Texas too.
What's like that blue cultures. Part down there by like Louisiana?
That's part of New France.
Oh, I thought New France was way up there at the very top.
It is. It's I guess the cultures reflect each other. I assume that's like the New Orleans, Louisiana area, like probably the bayous. Yeah. Well, the bayous are probably like where New France and Deep South like meet. So yeah.
Yeah.
I swear, like, have you ever talked to like Cajun people? It's really hard to understand them. Like when you get some of these people that came out of the swamps.
No, I haven't. We don't have very many of them around here.
You don't have very many. You don't have very many gator wrestlers over there.
No, unfortunately, we don't have very many gators either. You have to go to the zoo for that shit.
Fair enough. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I fall into El Norte, which makes sense. I mean, I'm pretty sure San Antonio would fall into that. I'm surprised that Houston is counted as part of the Deep South. I think. Interesting.
Where's West Virginia on the map?
West Virginia is in Tidewater, mostly.
Oh. Huh.
See it over there in the peach?
I wonder what kind of culture Tidewater is.
Oh, we have someone from West Virginia. All right. Tell us about Tidewater, Dee. Well, I'm waiting for your answer in the chat. Tell me, like, what does Tidewater mean? I don't like, because Greater Appalachia, I'm already hearing the banjos playing. Fair enough. A little bit of sister fisting going on. We got some Midlands. I know what that's going on. Yankeedom, pretty obvious. It's not that different from. It's like a mix between. Honestly, it feels like a mix between the Midlands and the left coast is what Yankeedom feels like to me. New France, like if you haven't been to New Orleans, go there. You'll know what New France means. Like, but Tidewater, it's insane. Okay. Yep. All right. Tidewater's scary.
We're gonna saw it off with California, and ship it into the ocean.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Us too over here on the left coast. I like how it's the left coast, which is both true politically and geographically.
Right. It's kind of funny because like it even rhymes with the West Coast, so I'm surprised that it just didn't go with that. Just the West Coast. The stream is hard to find, Larry. That we make it hard to find on purpose. It's actually a strategy. See, because if we make it hard to find, then only exclusive people get in here and see the beauty that is the stream.
Only the cool people get in here.
Were you actively trying to find it? Interesting.
I shared it on Facebook, but only boomers use Facebook, I
yeah,
guess.
pretty much
So.
at this point. I swear to God, we need to start sharing. Like once I stop being a lazy ass and start getting some of
Well,
these videos edited, we need to put it up on Reddit.
we should set up a chat in the Discord and then invite people into the.
That's fair.
Into
I should
there.
expand the Discord a little bit so that we can host people to come in and talk to us about stuff.
Yeah, people can hang out in there and chat and
Yeah.
do stuff like that if they want and interact with good, American people
Little
who just want to talk
viewing
about
party
politics
style thing.
without
Yeah.
being called racist and
That's
stuff.
right. What? Wait, we're not
Speaking
allowed to
of-
call each other racist? I thought that was the whole point.
Speaking of calling people who aren't racist.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Portland. Yeah, we're transitioning. It's our thing.
All right. Lots of survivalists. Is Tidewater like what I'm thinking of when I'm hearing Appalachia? Because when I think to Appalachia, I'm thinking like hillbillies and feuds and like banjos and you fucked my mom, so I'm gonna fuck my sister so that you can't fuck her first style stuff. Someday that's gonna get clipped out. I can already feel it.
Yeah.
God damn it. All right, whatever. So he did find it on Facebook. All right.
Yeah, he said when he switched to his laptop, he couldn't find it. I know searching on YouTube is hard to find it because there is another show called The Wrap, or The Weekly Wrap. But if you type in USA Liberalists, The Weekly Wrap, it comes up. But that's a lot to type. So
I'm sorry, Didi. I didn't mean to stereotype Appalachia. I apologize.
We should consider rebranding.
I'm canceled.
Yeah, you've been canceled.
I disavow myself. It's okay.
All right, so Portland.
Proud Boys, guys, Portland fights with Antifa.
I was totally there.
Oh, yeah?
Totally at this rally. Yeah, I went. I went on Saturday.
We have pillbillies. Oh, God. I already know what that is from the name. All right, sorry. Go ahead.
So before I left for the rally, my wife told me, for those of you who don't know, my wife is pregnant and we're expecting our first child.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you. She said,
everyone type F in the chat for his freedom.
She can't do this alone. So that kind of gives you a sense of the feeling going into this thing.
Okay.
Because the media was playing it up. And I titled this part in our notes, The Portland Narrative, because it starts out way before this happened.
Sure.
The media was hyping it up to essentially be Charlottesville 2.0, that these white supremacists were coming to town and that they were just going to start murdering people in the streets.
They make everything sound like Charlottesville 2.0.
Right. They want it to be Charlottesville 2.0 because then they can write stories about it for months.
That's great news. Yeah, that's great. That's great TV right there. So, yeah.
So, and to be fair, the organizer, Joe Biggs, didn't really help things because he was popping off on social media a lot, wearing shirts that said, like, I want to fight Antifa and stuff like that.
Free helicopter rides for communists.
Yeah, exactly.
Not helpful.
The stuff that, if you're in I guess, speaking of culture, if you're in this sort of conservative right-wing internet culture, even if you're not right-wing or whatever, you kind of get those jokes, but people on the outside don't. Like, Pinochet did nothing wrong, right? Like, yeah, he did do things wrong. Like, we know that, but it's a joke,
The only capitalist dictator. That's like the entire reason people use him.
Right. Like, so. So anyway, they start pushing that narrative. I go to the rally. I'm tense. It's tense. It's a tense situation. I show up.
Sure. I
get out of my car. I start walking to the rally, and my head is like on a swivel. I'm looking for Antifa. I'm not wearing like an American flag tuxedo or anything. I'm not like Uncle Sam or nothing, but I do have a hat that has the American flag on it.
If you really want to be safe at these rallies, I've got an idea for you. Tell me what you think. Ready?
Okay.
All right, so here's what you're going to do. you're gonna need to wear some you're gonna need to wear some leggings, right? And you're gonna wear a shirt on top, like with cut off sleeves that says Beta Cuck for life.
Oh yeah.
You'll be totally safe at these rallies. The Proud Boys won't come near you,
There
and
was a guy.
Antifa won't touch you. They'll be like, yeah, brother, just rep it.
There was an Antifa guy wearing that shirt.
That's part of the reason why I'm saying it. But yes.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I walked down to the rally. I meet these two guys who were in town from Seattle, which is in Washington, if you don't know. It's like a 4-hour drive, but they were in town for something
Okay, I know
else.
where Seattle is.
Well, just to kind of give you
know
like
where
how
Portland
far
is on a map because I'm an idiot, but I know where Seattle is.
Well, Portland's so freaking small compared to like Seattle, or
that's also fair.
It's a big town in Oregon, but that's not saying much.
Yeah.
I meet these guys, and they're trying to get to the rally too, and so we walk together because there's safety in numbers, and there was 3 of us, and they looked like they were in shape, and they said they figured I was going because of my hat. So we get there. We actually end up on the wrong side, so we're like hanging out with Antifa, and they're like shouting at this group. It was called Portland Liberation, is the name of this group, and they're a conservative group. They're shouting at them. They're calling them Nazis. They're swarming them. There's this guy in some of the videos who's shouting like they're trying to say things like, we're praying for Jesus, and the religious sort of thing, and he's shouting like, you're looking at a god, I am a god, blah blah, like just being weird. Being Portland. I guess Sean was at the rally, huh? Cool.
Yeah.
Probably did see you there, man. So we get to the right side. The main group is up on the bridge, so we're waiting for them to get into the park with us.
Yeah.
And there's cops like everywhere, man. They come down. We all hang out for a little while. Some Antifa guys start, saying a bunch of shit, and some of the more hot-headed Proud Boys were like, everyone was kind of going over there like they do at these rallies because they're more interested in Antifa being jackasses than actually what the people are saying at the rallies sometimes.
Right.
But the one thing I did notice is the Proud Boys would get in between Antifa with their backs to Antifa and stop their own guys and made them go away. They did a good job. The Proud Boys did a good job of keeping their side in check. So we kneel, we say a prayer, pray for Antifa and for Portland and all that good stuff. And then we sing the national anthem. We march across another bridge. They close the bridge for us. The Portland police closes the bridge. We cross the bridge. They don't let anyone follow behind, so they don't let Antifa follow us behind. So we're on the other side of the river from Antifa. Sure. Because there's a river that runs through Portland to keep us separated. We marched down to the spot, and then that was it. We went home. We were out of there probably, I think I texted my wife around 1:30 p.m. So Antifa sticks around till like 5 or 6 o'clock. They get declared a civil disturbance. They start, harassing the police and attacking individual patriots who live in Portland who are probably just trying to go home or just to record Antifa or whatever, because there are a lot of independent journalists like Andy Ngo there. Sure. They start attacking a bunch of people. There's videos about it all online. So I go home and I start reading all the news stories, and the stories are like 13 people arrested at alt-right rally, essentially. It's like
nobody mentions that none of the right-wing people were arrested.
Right. Nobody in the group that I was with got arrested.
Was it any, because it was the rally was actually held by the Patriot Prayer guys, right?
No, it was Joe Biggs and Enrique Tarrio.
Okay.
Joe Biggs is
the Proud Boys, right?
Yeah, Enrique Tarrio is a Proud Boy. I don't know what Joe Biggs. He's just He's a ex-military
I thought Joe
or
Biggs
former
was
military.
Patriot Prayer, but I could be wrong.
Joey Gibson is Patriot
Oh,
Prayer.
okay. That's what I'm thinking
He
of.
was there. He got arrested, or he turned himself in the day before, but they let
Okay.
him out.
So, as far as we're aware, none of the people on the right side were arrested.
As far as I know, there
Okay.
was the only incident, the closest thing, the main group where I was got to any sort of conflict was after we'd crossed the river and we were hanging out. One guy walked into the crowd, like of Proud Boys, and was pointing, like index finger out, pointing right in people's faces and saying, F you, F you, F you, F you, F you, and just going like from person to person, like
What?
very
Okay.
aggressive, very like
This was
annoying.
one of the right wing guys or the Antifa guys? Because that sounds
No,
more like Antifa.
this was an Antifa guy or just some person who decided that he hates all these white nationalists,
Sure.
these Proud Boys and stuff.
Yeah.
And the Proud Boys who were essentially like keeping everyone in check, like immediately like form a perimeter around this guy. Some of the other Proud Boys, like the younger Proud Boys, were like trying to get in his face and they wanted to, they were just being young and dumb.
Yeah.
They were probably like 20 years old or something. These are just young kids. The police were there and they come in right behind the Proud Boys, grab the guy and separate him off.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, everyone starts singing na 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 as the police take him off. But
Yeah.
nobody got hurt. Nobody threw a punch. There was no blood, nothing. And then we dispersed and went home. So the narrative was people arrested. They try to violence breaks out at extreme right wing rally. That narrative kind of died on them when people were watching the videos
Yeah.
and stuff.
Like it's pretty hard to watch the videos, except for because I understand there was the hammer guy that as far as I can tell, I looked at it more and it seems like, at least according to some of the Patriot Prayer guys that looked into it a little more deeply, that maybe it was one of the Proud Boys hammers that Antifa was like swinging around. They somehow got it and threw it back at them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it did look like the hammer came from the bus. I don't know if the Patriots or the Proud Boys or whoever were swinging it at them. I mean, I don't know. It's a tool on a bus. It's not like super crazy.
Sure.
But Antifa got a hold of it and then threw it back into the bus. And so yeah, that will be made to make them look bad. But Antifa, the Proud Boys were trying to leave the city, which is something I thought was really weird because Antifa, essentially what they do is they yell at you, go home, leave, get out of our city, get out of our city. And as soon as you turn to get out of their city, quote unquote, they start attacking you.
Well, yeah, you've turned
Proud
your
Boys
back
are
on them.
trying to leave in their bus, doing what they say they want people to do. Yeah.
Oh, Sean, if you know more
yeah.
about the hammer incident, let us know.
Well, the fire station was where the rally ended.
Okay.
Where the guy was saying "f you" to people. And the
okay. He's talking about
organizers
I
told
forgot
us
the delay. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you do know about the hammer thing, I still want to know. Anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't there. One of the guys in the Patriot Prayer group, who I talk with online sometimes.
Sure.
I saw the video of it too, but he grabbed like a chunk of concrete from one of the Antifa guys who was trying to throw it at their bus. And Antifa brought fucking concrete and they were breaking it apart so that they could throw it at these buses.
Wow. That's
right. They brought it in a case so the police wouldn't see it.
Why didn't they like pre-break it?
They're not smart. Well, some of the Antifa people are smart, but
yeah, I'd say a good number of them are at least reasonably intelligent, but they have absolutely no long-term thinking. Zero.
Well, I think maybe they could fit more in the case if it weren't all broken up. I don't know why. They didn't think that far ahead. They wanted to punch a Nazi. Who knows?
I'm just thinking if it's broken up, it should actually be able to. Then again, I guess okay, whatever. It's not that hard to break it, so whatever. But
well, so the narrative changes. It went from because Ted Wheeler came out and did a thing like he said he doesn't want Joe Biggs in this city anymore, and it's like, well, you don't get to like tell people that.
Public space, buddy. Public space.
Right. You're supposed to be the mayor of Portland. You don't just get to exile people from Portland because you don't like them. Like Mayor Wheeler totally believes that Proud Boys, Patriot Prayer, Joe Biggs are evil, vile, white supremacists, racists who are spreading messages of hate, and that they're all like super bad people, right? So the narrative changes a couple of days later from, right-wing groups cause all this problem downtown because it fell apart to, well, these businesses had to shut down and it ended up costing $3 million.
All Wheeler has, like, literally, if Wheeler wants this to stop, he needs to put in a city ordinance because this is clearly a specific problem to Portland that you're just not allowed to wear masks at these rallies. If you do,
right,
you're going to be taken in. You're going to be like, it doesn't have to be some huge thing, but you need to be on file. You need to be given, I don't know, like $100 fine. I don't think it needs to be some huge deal. Like, just in case they accidentally get someone that was just innocently, I don't know, wearing a hoodie or something. But, yeah, that needs to be the case, that the police need to be able to look at the Antifa guys. They're wearing all these fucking masks and be like, no, if you want to demonstrate here, you're not wearing masks. Sorry. You need to be accountable for what you're doing, because especially with that whole bullshit where some Proud Boys got into a fight with a bunch of Antifa guys, and the only reason the Antifa guys didn't get charged is because they were wearing masks. Fuck your masks.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, and so they couldn't really, because my wife is like apolitical. She doesn't really care too much about politics. She doesn't. She's not into all this.
Yeah.
And so she was telling me, because she was trying to figure it out when I told her I wanted to go and we talked about it.
Sure.
And she's like, just don't die. I'm like, okay, I won't die.
I think I can handle that much, yeah.
I will never die.
I'm immortal. Antifa can't touch me.
Well, I mean, even if they do punch me, it's not really going to hurt.
You think I feel your little sissy punches? I am man.
What was I going to say?
Not implying that Andy Neo's not. He's a really cool guy.
No, I'm sure they could, in large enough numbers,
Yes, if you get 20 of them, they can do some damage.
If you get enough chihuahuas together, man.
They will tear your shit up. That's right.
They're like land piranhas.
The freaking chihuahuas are just vicious little pricks anyway.
Yeah. But so they changed it. They couldn't sell the narrative that these right-wingers were roaming the streets murdering trans people. They couldn't sell that narrative. So they switched it to these poor businesses, because there are a lot of businesses that are downtown that shut down for that day.
Sure. Fair enough.
These poor businesses lost all this money because these right-wing groups came to town.
Dude, I would say for any business in Portland, like, I understand it's a expense, but as long as Antifa is going to run around smashing windows and shit, you might want to invest in some steel shutters. I'm just saying.
Right. And so my point is that Patriot Prayer, Proud Boys, like Patriot Prayer, Joey Gibson, before he turned himself into the police, gave an interview to the media outside the police department where he said that him and Patriot Prayer have done around 60 rallies in places that weren't Portland since his last Portland rally.
Sure.
0 violence. Did you hear about any of those on the news?
I have not heard about anything they were doing.
I heard about the rallies, but I didn't go because I don't live in Washington.
Sure.
But I didn't hear about it. If there was violence there, I'm sure the media would have reported it.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been all over the news.
It would have magically become very, very important. A flashpoint of American culture.
They were all peaceful rallies, right?
Yep.
The only time that there's violence is when they come into Portland. Now, if Antifa has a rally or a protest, there's almost always violence. When Trump got elected after the election, it cost the city of Portland $1 million because Antifa rioted in the streets and caused so much destruction and damage.
I don't suppose Wheeler is up for re-election anytime soon.
I don't live in Portland, so I don't get a vote for him. So I'm not sure. But I think soon, though.
Fair enough. While you talk, I'm going to look up some information about Portland's political system.
So I'm thinking that they're trying to blame. To me, it seems like they're blaming the victim here because Patriot Prayer and the Proud Boys, there would be no violence if Antifa doesn't show up to these things. They would have their rallies. Nothing would happen. They would get bored, probably. And then they wouldn't go to Portland anymore.
Right.
Like, all Portland has to do is allow people who are right wing to have their constitutionally guaranteed right to freedom of speech within the city of Portland.
Yeah,
that's not too much to ask.
Literally, if the Proud Boys show up and no one starts freaking out, they'll just leave it alone. Like, nothing will happen.
They'll go home.
It's not the Proud Boys doing this. And it's so irresponsible the way the media is handling this, because I've even had friends of mine that are apparently stupider than I realized, that think that the Proud Boys are all alt-right, because I guess they haven't got any news updated to them since fucking the Charlottesville incident. And I'm like, no, guys. Yeah, okay, some of them fucking showed up to the Charlottesville thing, but I'd like to point out the leadership in the Proud Boys didn't. The Proud Boys are not alt-right. This is ridiculous.
Right. Well, it's, like I said, it feels like victim blaming to me.
To a certain extent it is, because I also understand that they're not entirely wrong. That if the Proud Boys didn't show up, they wouldn't have to deal with all these damages. That's true, but it's also true that the people that are actually doing the damages aren't the Proud Boys.
Well, to me, it's sort of like saying, well, if those black guys didn't go into those restaurants during the civil rights movement, then all those people wouldn't have freaked out and beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Like, why did those guys do that? They went into places that they knew they were going to get beat up. They knew there was going to cause a reaction. That's what they want. They wanted the reaction.
Yeah, that's the point. They're trying to point out how ridiculous you people are.
Well, yeah, that was what Joe Biggs said, and he's like, we wanted the attention. Like, when they interviewed him, they said we wanted the media attention. We wanted, like, Trump tweeted about it. That's what we wanted. We wanted attention on this issue.
Yeah.
And we got it. So we're going home. So they left. That's what he wanted. And they're like, and the mayor of Portland's saying, like, he's just doing it here so that they get attention. It's like, yes.
So maybe stop giving them the attention?
Right. Like, if you want this to go away, deal with Antifa. Like, address the issue. The issue isn't Patriot Prayer comes into Portland to cause problems. They're not causing problems. Patriot Prayer comes to exercise their, believe it or not, your God-given right to free speech, freedom of assembly, in the city of Portland, and a bunch of people show up to tell them they can't do that.
I'm kind of curious about what DD just posted. Apparently, Hinton, West Virginia has a Confederate statue. I'm surprised there's any of those left at this point, if I'm being totally honest. Um, I thought they all got protested out of existence.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah. I'm not exactly a Confederate, but I mean,
Those
hey
those
man,
damn rebels.
I don't know. Like, I've never understood people coming from like out of town, tell people they need to take this statue down. Like, it's not really your choice, bro. Like, if we want to take it down, we can vote to take it down. If we don't want to take it down, go fuck yourself.
Right. That's one of the criticisms. That's probably like the most effective criticism that people give to Patriot Prayer too, because
Yeah.
Joey Gibson is from Vancouver,
Sure.
which is just across the river from Portland. It's like 5 minutes from Portland. It's not like he's super far away or anything.
Vancouver, Canada?
Washington.
Oh, okay. I was like, what are you talking about?
Not BC, no.
Okay.
Vancouver, Washington is, you can see it from Portland.
Yeah.
You can swim there.
I'd say, like, if as long as you're in state, at least you've got some sort of, like, stake in it. But if we're talking about, because most of the time when we're talking about these Confederate statues, it's people that are coming from, like, all the way out of town. Like, all the way, being organized by someone that's all the way out of town.
People from all over the country with enough disposable income to fly into these places and tear down statues because they got nothing going on with their lives.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, and the thing about the Confederate statues, hold on. I gotta timestamp this.
Okay. Have you been doing that by chance?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Because I'm doing a short night tonight so that I can come back in the morning and like actually sit down and work on it.
Oh, cool. The thing with the statues is that like the Confederate Army, they were fighting for, like, you'll hear people say a bunch of different things. They were fighting for states' rights, but the state rights they were fighting for was slavery. That's like the best interpretation I've heard. So they were essentially
one of the states' rights.
Well, right, like it was. We have the right to determine what our laws are.
Right.
So
it was more of general states' rights than just that, but that also was the main one that pissed them off.
Well, that was the specific one that was being. That was the specific topic of debate in the country at the time.
Right. It was the flashpoint.
The reason why, like they had to make, they couldn't be like, well, I guess they did, but anyway, all that aside, I don't care about that so much. The Confederate soldiers, the Confederate Army, and the Confederacy, in my opinion, they were all Americans.
Right.
And they're the people who survived, or the people who had descendants survive them, who died, are Americans. And so if they want to have statues of their ancestors who, despite the fact that they were fighting for something that is morally wrong now, and probably morally wrong, forever, whatever, something morally wrong, they fought bravely. Like there is something to say about honoring your opponents. Like if they fight bravely, you don't want to be like, there were a bunch of like pussy ass coward bitches.
We're going to strip them from history. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were a part of our history. Like them or hate them. They're a part of our history.
Right. Exactly. And so to me, that's why I think if they want to have these statues, they should be allowed to have the statues.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't even necessarily mind protests coming from people, but it's like, when you get into a situation where they start like tearing down the statue themselves, that's taking it too far. That's too far. That's too far.
Well, yeah, that's not a civilized society, in my opinion.
No.
They don't care what you think. They're not going to put it through a vote or go through the legal means or through the legislature. They're just gonna get enough people together and tear it down.
And speaking of apparently just not caring, speaking of not caring what anyone thinks, I think now that we're getting a little bit on in time, so I want to move it a little bit ahead. Leading House Dem calls out Omar and Tlaib amid Trump attack for furthering anti-Semitism with vile cartoon. All right. Let's look at this vile cartoon. Where is it? Aha! The more they try and silence us, our voices rise. The more they try and weaken us, the stronger we become. The more they try to discredit us, the truth prevails.
Yeah.
Guys, is anyone else seeing this? This looks a whole lot like they're saying that they're being silenced by the Jews.
It's conspiracy, man. They've hypnotized the world.
Can we please finally fucking call Ilhan Omar fucking... No, this is Tlaib that put this one out. Maybe Omar did too.
Well, they're both just
they're both in it.
Anti-Semites.
I mean, they're but
bad.
Like, Jesus Christ.
Anti-Semitism is bad, guys.
Anti-Semitism is bad.
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 Well, this story is getting a little more attention, I think, because something Donald Trump said, which I'm like, God, like, I don't think Donald Trump is an anti-Semite or a racist. Does he say things that are racist or could be seen as racist or anti-Semitic? Yes, absolutely. But I don't think he's like, I don't think he cares enough.
Yeah, I don't think he's actually anti-Semitic. I think it was poorly worded, but like there's poorly worded, and then there's this fucking cartoon. Jesus Christ.
Well, he said, quote, "I think any Jewish people that vote for a Democrat, I think it shows either a total lack of knowledge or great disloyalty." If he just left it at, if it shows a total lack of knowledge, that would have been I would have been totally fine with that statement. The great disloyalty part.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you listened to Ben Shapiro on this too. Like that, I think if I'm going to be charitable to Trump here, which that's my bias, I guess, is I think he's meaning, I think he does mean disloyalty to Israel, but I also thought maybe he meant like disloyalty to Trump.
I'm not sure what he means by disloyal. Like that was clearly a bad way. I'm not sure exactly what he's even trying to say. Whatever it was, that was a bad way of communicating it.
Well, especially when Tlaib's, I think it was Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar said that Jews have a dual loyalty.
Yeah, like when that's
and
come
we've
up
been calling
recently,
that anti-Semitic.
Yeah,
and he's saying, well, they're being disloyal. Like disloyal.
Who?
Ben Shapiro breaks this down. If you guys want to go watch his stuff, he breaks it down pretty well. But know that he also has a bias in this too. Probably bigger than mine.
Yeah, people have pointed that out about Ben, is that he tends to, anything that criticizes Israel, he does tend to take it to an anti-Semitic place.
Right, he's more sensitive to this stuff than I am.
He definitely is. And he's an Orthodox Jew, so it kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah, it's understandable, and he's the target of a lot of anti-Semitism, and so he's especially sensitive to it. Just
it's sore nerve for him.
Yeah, so I always, every time he starts talking about Israel and stuff, I love Ben.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Ben, if you're listening, I would love to have you on the show. But he does take it with a grain of salt. Know that he does have his own bias here, and I think he would admit that too, though. That's why I like Ben, is that he will admit that he does have a bias in this. Like he'll openly say that in the Piers Morgan interview, he said like mainstream media tries to pretend like they don't have a bias, and I'm just open about that I have a conservative bent to me.
Sure.
But he tries to call out things that he sees as morally good or bad whenever they happen, regardless of the party. But I think with conservatives, he tries to justify it a little bit more, but I do think he does actually a pretty good job.
I've always felt that Ben, for the most part, checks his biases pretty well, especially when it comes to his religious upbringing. Because it would be very easy for him to just sort of be like uber religious, because it's clear that he's very strongly an Orthodox Jew.
Yeah.
But he's actually able to talk in a way that it doesn't come off as like he's just fucking saying Jesus. Well, I guess he wouldn't talk about Jesus anyway. He's a Jew. But you know what I mean. He doesn't talk like a preacher. He talks like a secular person. And, you know, that's appreciated that he's able to check himself like that. But definitely, it seems like he's less able to do that when it comes to anything that might be an attack on Jewish people. So, you know, it's understandable. I appreciate him for what he is.
Yeah. So back to the anti-Semitism is bad. So Trump says that, and it kind of highlights what Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar have been saying, because there's the whole like controversy where they weren't allowed into Israel, and then Rashida Tlaib tried to say, "Oh, I just want to see my grandma. I just want to see my grandma. They're not letting me see my grandma." And then Israel's like, "Okay, you can come in and see your grandma, but you can't do any like, you can't meet with terrorists." And she's like, "No, fuck it, I'm not going."
Screw you, Grandma. They won't let me meet with Hamas.
Right?
Like,
they try to spin that. They try
oh,
to
they
like
both
make
shared
it,
this. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, they try to make that like, oh, look at Israel's keeping me away from seeing my 92-year-old grandma. It might be the last time I get to see her. They're so awful and terrible, which I'm sure the squad true believers totally believe, because everybody else is a Nazi. Those damn Jews
I
are
hate those Jewish
Nazis.
Man. The worst.
They're the worst. They're totally the worst. Israel, well, talking about, Jewish Nazis,
Uh-huh.
Omar and Tlaib voted against a measure that got overwhelming bipartisan support in Congress that opposed the boycott, divest, and sanction.
Well,
And Ilhan Omar went a little further, because she likened the BDS boycott, divest, and sanction movement to similar boycotts against the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. And so she's saying we need to boycott, divest, and sanction Israel because they're just as bad as the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. We need to have a similar boycott as we had against those countries as we did against Israel.
unless you're...
So she's comparing
I mean,
Israel to Nazi Germany.
I mean, I guess it's not necessarily contradictory, because there's nothing saying that Jews aren't allowed to go on extermination sprees. They just don't. So, yeah.
At least not in the modern era.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for most of history, Jews have just sort of been getting kicked around the fucking planet, so...
Right, they haven't had a country for a long time.
Yeah, they haven't really had
they
a place...
They haven't had an organized government, I guess.
Yeah, and as much as I'm not a huge fan of ethno-states, like, even though, like, Israel is kind of one, because I'm pretty sure that anyone that's ethnically Jewish is basically a de facto citizen of Israel. I mean, they don't seem to clamp down on that too hard. There's plenty of Muslims in Israel. So, yeah.
So this cartoon that they both shared was done by some guy. I won't mention his name because I don't know it, but also because he's a jackass. He came in second place in Iran's International Holocaust Cartoon Contest, which I didn't know was a thing. So I went on Wikipedia, and essentially it's like a Holocaust deniers cartoon contest where they show like the person who won did a cartoon and it looks like, I can't tell what it is, but it looks like the Temple Mount or something, like Jerusalem.
Sure.
And there's like a crane with the Star of David on it, putting up a memorial around it of like the halt, like it shows the train tracks to Auschwitz or something, like to one of the concentration camps, essentially saying that, well, to get our state, we showed the world all these fake images, this fake reflection that we wanted to show everybody, and so that the Jews could get their state. It's just gross. It's just terrible, awful stuff. Like the Holocaust. The Holocaust is real.
Yeah.
All right, it happened. If you don't think the Holocaust happened, then you probably think the Earth is flat too. I got a bridge I want to sell you somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you on that one, but I can't believe at this point that they're still just going on and on and on. Like, are they actively trying to convince everyone they just hate Jews? Seriously.
Well, I think they do. I think they don't. I think they do hate Jews, but in fairness, I can't say that definitively. I can't read their minds. I'm not a mind reader, so I can't say that definitively. And they haven't come out and said it directly. But
well, yeah, they always shield it behind, "Oh, I'm just criticizing Israel."
Right.
Just because I'm over here calling Jews freaking demon rats doesn't mean that I hate Jews. I'm talking about Israel. The same way that Hassan Piker that was talking about Dan Crenshaw, where he said that he wanted like one of the freedom fighters that took his eye out to fuck his eye hole, and that we deserve 9/11. Like, no,
brave soldier.
Yeah, and fucking whenever he says similar shit, apparently he's taken to saying in a video game. Just attaching in a video game to whatever crazy shit he says, so that
we should
as some sort of legal defense.
Terrible thing in a video game.
Yeah, it's like that's not a defense.
We can
dude.
see through your bullshit. Man.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, I don't. I'm trying not to hate people, so I'm not going to say that I hate him.
Dude, Hassan Piker has gone off the goddamn rails in the past few years.
He is. It's just like a very frustrating individual.
He didn't used to be either, which is like the interesting part, because like I used to watch the Young Turks all the time. This was back when I was like 20, 21.
Back in your socialist days.
Yeah, a little bit, but I used to watch them all the time. Hassan was actually my favorite presenter, not because he was the smartest one there, but because even as I was like moving out of that, I started noticing it's just like, man, the presenters in the Young Turks they don't do any independent research for themselves. They just take whatever the writers put in, and that's just what they go with. They report that. They're literally just talking heads. And then Hassan actually usually came in with a little bit of research, like talking about what happened, trying to bring some facts and nuance to the conversation, and I appreciated that. And yeah, nowadays that does not appear to be what he does at all.
Then he took the blue pill.
Yeah, I have no idea. I seriously don't know what the fuck happened to Hassan. Like, he actually used to be a reasonable guy.
Hammer and sickle pill.
I don't know, but he used to be reasonable, and now he's Hassan Piker. Like, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't know how much of like some of these people online, how much of their edginess is just a marketing strategy.
I don't think he's faking it, because I don't think he's smart enough to. He never really has been.
True.
He's genuinely not the brightest guy. He never has been. Even when I did like him, like I always knew, he's not the brightest guy, but he tries. He tried harder than the other guys. That's what I liked. So yeah.
Yeah, you admired his effort.
Well, that and the effort actually paid off. It made for some actually interesting segments on the Young Turks. But yeah.
Well, this Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib were both barred from entering the country, and the reason Israel gave is due to their itinerary. If you listen to the media, it was because Trump said they should be, which that might have had something to do with it too, but sure. Who knows? Like, maybe he knew something. They didn't. They wanted to promote boycott, divest, and sanction movements that's targeting Israel. So Israel has a legitimate reason to not want them in the country.
Yeah.
And as opposed to putting Israel as their destination, they put Palestine. Which kind of makes you think that they don't think Israel has a right to exist. And then the group that funded their trip and planned it, they've expressed support for terrorism against Israel.
Yeah.
And I think that's all in the article.
Dude, I don't know. Like,
this
Talib and Omar are genuinely, the more I hear from them, the more I'm just like, dude, you guys are legitimately awful, aren't you?
Well, who did the article? Like, who published?
Are you talking about the image or?
Yeah. No, just is it Fox? No, it's Fox News. Okay.
Yeah, this one's Fox.
I mean, it's Fox. It's Fox News. I was gonna say it's not some crazy right wing site, but it's Fox News.
I mean, so, as far as I can tell, it seems like Fox News is actually much more moderate than or FoxNews.com is actually much more moderate than the TV. Like when you watch the
Sean Hannity,
right? Like when you watch Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity, you get the impression that it's pretty firmly right wing. Although Tucker also has some pretty left wing ideas sometimes. But as far as I can tell, FoxNews.com is very
watch those guys anyway.
Yeah, I watch Tucker sometimes. But the FoxNews.com is very, it's definitely conservative, but it's not always just conservative. Yeah. It's pretty mixed. I like it.
Well, and it's like Ilhan Omar in 2012 tweeted that, quote, Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel. So she's criticizing Israel, right? Yeah. Israel. She also suggested that pro-Israeli members of Congress, this is while she's a member of Congress, are motivated by Jewish money. I think she said it's all about the Benjamins, something like that. Rashida Tlaib. Now, I don't know the full context of this, and this is from Fox News. So this one I was a little iffy about because the quotations are short. But she said that she gets a calm feeling when thinking about the Holocaust because Palestinians helped create a safe haven for Jews in the aftermath of the genocide.
Oh, yeah.
So if I want to be charitable to her, is that she's saying that during the Holocaust, which, you know, may or may not have happened, that the Palestinians welcomed the Jewish people in that were fleeing.
If I understand correctly, that's not true at all.
Well, I don't see why it would be.
Like, that doesn't sound accurate. I would need to look more into what exactly she's talking about. I wish she would clarify. Not that they ever fucking clarify. That's part of why they, quote unquote, get misrepresented. Because they just say shit that sounds vehemently anti-Semitic, and all they have to say back when someone calls them on it is like, we didn't mean... How could you possibly take that as anti-Semitic? Like,
right.
Like, you got to do a little better than that. Because, don't get me wrong, when you listen to those statements, okay, would they be just against Israel? Sure. But taken together, it really doesn't seem like they're just talking about Israel. They might be. And I think it is worth notating, because this is something that I've noticed with Ben, where there doesn't seem to be a good way about talking about Israeli politics right now that doesn't put you in a position where you feel like you're going to be immediately accused of Jew bashing, which isn't necessarily fair.
Well, I think everybody had, like, culturally, there's a sensitivity around anything that could be perceived as bigotry or white supremacy or whatever,
yeah,
you know.
Whatever.
Yeah, any form of discrimination.
Sure. Or prejudice or
so
whatever.
So if you say, if you're criticizing Israel, like, you can't just say Israel has hypnotized the world, because, like, how? Like, what do you mean?
Right.
They've hypnotized the world. What does that mean?
Because don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of Netanyahu either, but, like, yeah, I don't know. Even saying that, I don't know. It just feels like I wish there was a better way to talk about Israel, and maybe we should stop. Maybe the best way is to lead in with talking about specific policies that are still happening, unlike the settlements, you jackasses. Instead of talking about Israel's hypnotizing the world. Like, that's an old trope. Maybe you don't know that. Now you do. Stop doing it. Fucking, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. Talking about how, because the old trope that Jewish people just pay off everyone to get away with their bullshit. Like, it's an old trope. It's an old anti-Semitic trope. That's why you're being called on it. You need to clarify. You need to specify.
Yeah, and so it's, to me, it kind of feels like they just, if you just replace the word Israel with Jews or Jewish or something like that, this becomes a lot worse.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like they, stream of consciousness, wrote this down, and then it autocorrect from Jew to Israel. Just they have like a safety on their Twitter accounts or something.
Anytime they want to say Jew, they just say Israel instead. Like, no,
Right?
that's not what we meant. Well, how could you say that?
Yeah, so I mean, I can understand wanting to criticize Israel. They're not perfect.
It's not a perfect nation.
The state of
no.
Israel has done bad things, I'm sure.
Sure.
I think they're one of the better countries in the Middle East, personally, as far as like atrocities and bad stuff go.
I mean, if we're talking about a dick measuring contest in the Middle East, like, there's not very many good players out there. So, yeah.
Well, and they can fight too.
Yeah. Well, goddamn, they've had to. Jesus Christ.
Right? They're in a rough neighborhood, man. They had to grow up fast. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this. This is a bad Trump moment. This is Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar are,
as usual.
To me, they appear like anti-Semites, and so knock it off, okay?
Yeah, maybe leave the
anti-Semitism is bad.
Like, I understand it's the Jewish flag, or the Israeli flag. Even I'm getting confused.
Oh, no.
I'm canceled. But I understand it's the Israeli flag on the image, but like, maybe instead of using the Star of David, just maybe avoid that. Maybe avoid implications that fucking Trump is being led around by the Jewish dog and that he's blindly following the Jews. Maybe avoid the Star of David. Avoid fucking, like, I get it. That's an Israeli symbol. I get that. But for fuck's sake, if you're trying to criticize the state of Israel, you're gonna need to be super specific, because even here, it looks like you're implying that Trump is in bed with the Jews. That's what it looks like, and this is not the first time you've done this. So I don't know. It looks bad.
Well, yeah.
I'm trying to help them figure out how to separate, because I want to believe. I would like to believe that they are actually just criticizing Israel. I would like to believe that. I don't believe that, but that's what I would like to believe. So if that's truly the case, please knock off the Jewish tropes, knock off the Jewish symbology, criticize specifically what you're trying to criticize. Get specific with it, for fuck's sake, please.
Yeah, like, criticize specific policies. It's just that simple. And to me, it feels like they wanted this to happen. Like, they wanted to generate this narrative by putting Palestine on their itinerary as opposed to Israel. Like, it feels, I mean, I would like to probably see the itinerary, maybe a copy of it, to verify it before I go all like, you dumb bitches. But if they did that, if that's true, as it's being reported, then
it's just petty.
It's like, yeah, it's like saying, well, the guy beat the shit out of me. It's like, well, you shouldn't have grabbed his wife's ass or something. Yeah. Like, you had it coming, man. Come on. Like, oh, that guy hit, like, I watched a video today of a guy got arrested in Portland like last year because he hit a protester with his car, and he had a dash cam, so it's all on video.
Okay.
And the guy, like, the protesters are blocking the street. He, like, the cars go, so the protesters move, so he's going across the street, the intersection. This one protester, you can see him take a step backwards into the car, and then does this like big old like flopping moment where he's like, takes a few, like, he's knocked back, and then the other protesters start like beating on the car and hitting the car. And so the guy in the car is like, get the hell out of the way. Like, I'm driving. He's trying to get to the courthouse because he's got a court appointment for a lawsuit that he filed.
Sure.
And the guy won't get out of the road, and he puts his hands up and he walks towards the car. And so he like runs into the car again. and the guy driving the car got arrested. It feels kind of like that, you know, and the guy told media right after it happened that, oh, he was just trying to cross the street and the guy just ran into him. And so then he ran into him again, and it just made himself out to be this huge victim when he was the one who kind of was responsible for it. Like, he played a part in being responsible for getting hit by the car. It kind of feels like if their narrative is we're being silenced by Israel, well, you don't think Israel has a right to exist. You want to boycott, divest, and sanction them, and you said you're going to Palestine. So there is no Palestine. You can't come to Israel unless you're coming to Israel, and you can't meet with groups that want to destroy the country while you're there. It's just common, you know, like, don't be a dick.
Yeah, at least show a level of professionalism. Yeah.
Yeah, and then don't claim that you're being oppressed when, anyway. That's all I really got on this topic, unless you got something else.
No, I think this is a good stopping point.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Tell them to come and subscribe so we can get this message out there and get this more balanced perspective, I guess. Our opinions out there. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.